Welcome to the Businesses Start Here podcast, hosted by David Vigliotti and Vigliotti and Associates. We're here to talk with business owners and business experts to inspire and encourage entrepreneurs.
Hello, welcome back to the Businesses Start Here podcast. We have another episode with a founder of a business. So we have Kelly Mann with us today. She's the co-founder of AuditMinder, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about what that business does. But Kelly, welcome. Thanks for being here today. We're excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started with AuditMinder, what you guys do, and where you are now.
So I think with every entrepreneur, the starting story is a really long story. I guess mine starts back in 2018 when I went to the AICPA Academy, our leadership academy, and kind of found my people and my confidence. And from there, 2 weeks after I left the leadership academy, and I quit my job in a public accounting firm of about 90 people. And I was like, you know what, I can do this on my own. So I started a niche 401k practice. So like in my audit practice, all I do is 401k audits. And so that was the first business that I founded.
Did you have clients set up at that point, or did you just make the leap?
No, I jumped ship with 0 clients.
Okay.
0 clients. And like, I was the breadwinner for the family, if you will. Like I had the insurance, all of that. So it was kind of a scary jump. And honestly, the insurance is what was almost held me back. Yeah. Like I did not quit my job until I knew for sure we could get enough insurance through my husband's employer, which you'll find out was not enough insurance. And it was very important that we made that decision. Right. So quit my job, started networking my butt off with investment advisors and TPAs and other small CPA firms that didn't want to do 401k audits, basically. Okay. But so I'm doing that. And as I'm figuring out what technology that I want in my practice, I started calling like Caseware and Thomson Reuters and Avenir and Mindbridge and all these like large tech companies in the accounting space. I was like, hey, what software do you guys have for employee benefit plan audits? And nobody had anything. They're like, sorry, we just don't have that. Well, every single company that I called me back. And they were like, hey, we heard that you were interested in employee benefit plan audit software. We don't have anything, but that is an area that we want to get into. We just don't have an expert with a vision and all of this. And so we would talk about my like big vision of what I thought technology could do for an employee benefit plan audit. And then for like 20, 30 minutes, and then we hung up. And they're like, we'll let you know if this is something we want to get into. And didn't think anything of it. Well, then a couple of those companies scheduled Zoom calls with me. And this was like pre-COVID, before Zoom was cool, right?
Right.
Like a Zoom call face-to-face, ew, no, but okay. Well, then I'm like, wait a second. Like, if all I want is my vision, I want to try and own my vision. So I canceled the Zoom calls and I started Googling startup accelerators and how to start a software company. And I took a computer science class through Stanford University online and decided I never want to code a day in my life. That's way too hard. But I found a startup accelerator in Omaha, Nebraska. It's through the Omaha Chamber of Commerce. So it's a nonprofit. So I didn't have to pay them anything. They didn't take any equity. Right. But I was like, okay, this sounds like something. Maybe I'll just send them an email and see what they say. And they're like, hey, we love your vision. Can you come in tomorrow?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sure. So at this time, I still don't have any clients for my audit practice, but I have contract work. So I have a little bit of money coming in through my CPA firm. CPA practice, I should say. It's not a firm. I have no employees at this point. But so I go down there, sit on the couch, tell them my vision, and they're like, yes, you can do this. You're a breath of fresh air. We were really worried about what a CPA was going to be coming in. Like they thought it was going to be super boring. They're like, no, we love it. So from there, I literally just put one foot in front of the other. And over the next 2 years, I should say, it's really 1 year, but it took 2 years to get there. Right. I developed AuditMinder.
Cool.
And I guess AuditMinder I should tell you that really quick. Yeah. So AuditMinder is a software that streamlines an employee benefit plan audit process. So typically an employee benefit plan takes anywhere from 60 to 100 hours to audit. And AuditMinder cuts out about 10 to 20 hours and combines that into 10 to 20 seconds for the CPA.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, that's a huge need in the industry. Um, One thing I want to ask you, when before you had those Zoom calls and you had this vision, was it a business that you had the vision for, or just the software? And then once you got those Zoom calls, I think I don't know if you said it now or I heard you say it before, but it was with like the CEOs of these companies, and that's when you realized that maybe you had a business here.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, like, it never occurred to me that it was a business, right? It was always just software at first.
Right.
Um, and yeah, I was like, okay, well, apparently, like, other people think there's a need for this software also.
Right.
And it was always just software. It was never like a business in my mind until recently. It's really funny. Like, literally 2 months ago, I was like, okay, I think we have a business. Like, this is a legit business. Like, yes, I formed it in 2019 as a C Corp.
Right.
It never really felt like a business because we didn't have customers and we didn't have a team. It was just myself and my co-founder for a long time.
Right.
And it's like, it wasn't really doing anything because we were just developing it. And then just literally 2 months ago, I was like, okay, I think it's a legit business.
Right. So that process of having a product to a business, can you describe that a little bit more? So like you said, you didn't have a team, it was just the two of you. I think a lot of people think they have an idea, but they don't know where to go with it, and they think it's just an idea. You watch Shark Tank, they say you don't have a business, you have a product. So what was your process of going from just an idea to a business?
That was a very long process. So literally the way it started out was I created Google Forms, so like surveys of, do you think this is a problem? Would you pay for a solution? Or what is your current solution? And I kind of determined what my two big problems were. And they were not this software. It was what I saw as a problem in the industry is all of these people are retiring, lots and lots of billable hours, because these older gentlemen, because most of them are men, right? They worked a crap ton more than a millennial ever wants to work.
Right.
Let's not shy about that. Like, I don't want to work more than 40 hours, and most millennials don't.
Right.
But so they're all retiring at this really, really large rate, but there aren't enough people to replace those billable hours. And so we literally cannot sustain this industry without technology to replace billable hours. So that was my first problem. Nothing to do with employee benefit plan audits, right? My second problem was that employee benefit plans cost too much money for the value that they provide. Again, it's not software, it's just a problem. Like, do you think this is a problem? And overwhelmingly, the respondents to that survey said yes. And I was sending these surveys out to people I found on LinkedIn. Okay. Cold calling, cold emailing, hey, will you take my survey? And so I ended up with, I think, 25 survey responses. And then I also called about 10 different CPA firms, and some were friends and some were like, hey, I can get you into this person too. And so I would talk to these people for 20 to 30 minutes about these problems. And then that's where I started. And I was like, okay, other people think there's a problem that employee benefit plans cost too much money for the value they provide. That was step one. And that took me a couple months.
Right.
So step two was, okay, I know there's a problem in the employee benefit plan industry. Let's dig into it. And so I started calling people that do employee benefit plans. Some of them were cold calls. Some of them were through LinkedIn messages that I found other people. Some of them went through connections. But we would talk for 30 minutes, and I kind of had like an agenda about what's your biggest frustration in employee benefit plan auditing. I mean, that's what it was really centered around.
Right.
So it was like, I think 15 to 20 CPA firms that did benefit plans that I talked to. And I gathered all of those results and said, what is the most common frustration that I think that technology could solve? And that's where I came up with my MVP, minimally viable prototype, for AuditMinder. Cool. Like, yes, I had this big vision of what AuditMinder can do, but my bank account did not match that vision. I had just quit my job.
Right.
And like 0 clients, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, what's the smallest thing that I think technology could solve that is a problem to most people? Because I don't want to build something if I don't have a customer.
Right.
And so I figured that small piece out. So Like, what is this? What is it going to solve? Do people respond to this? So I send out more Google Forms. Does this problem resonate with you? Right? Like, I did so much research for 9 months. So my idea, when I sat on that couch with the Startup Collaborative, which was the Startup Accelerator, I sat on that couch in February 2019. I did not form the company until October 2019.
Okay.
So during that whole time was research, figuring out my messaging, and literally drawing wireframes of what I thought the website would do and asking those same customers for their feedback.
So I think it's important to note here, how much experience did you have in auditing 401ks prior to this?
I had been a 401k auditor for 10 years.
So 10 years. You had 10 years experience. So you know it pretty much inside and out.
Yes.
But you still went to the market to make sure that it wasn't just your experience. So 10 years of experience and then an additional 9 months of research. So it was a lot of work. And I think one thing that I see a lot with business owners is whether they have the experience or not, they think they know the answer to the problem. They think they know what the problem is. So you went to the market more to confirm what you found, and it sounds like you did get pretty good confirmation.
Oh yeah.
But you didn't make any assumptions based on your personal experience. And I think that's a really important lesson, that just because you experience something doesn't mean that everybody in the industry is experiencing it.
Yep. And a big thing is that 10 years of experience was with 2 CPA firms. So the one that I started at in Tampa, Florida for 2 years, and then the one that I was employed at in Omaha, Nebraska for 8, right? So I would really just say it was the 8 years, because your first 2 years, you don't know anything. You're just trying to figure out like how to make a tick mark and how to work it. So I would say I had 8 years experience at one CPA firm. Now, if that was 8 years over like 3 firms, maybe I would have relied on my intuition a little bit more, but you have blinders on when you only work for one company like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I tell people a lot that people nowadays as hiring managers see multiple jobs as a negative, but it really helps somebody become well-rounded. It's not necessary, but it's not the red flag that it used to be, especially like when we talked about millennials. It's a different breed nowadays. Mm-hmm. They want different things. They're looking for different things. They're not going to stay at a place just because that was the first person that offered them a job. They're gonna keep looking for something bigger and better.
Exactly. And I think because of all of that research that I did and that confirmation that I got on the problem, and I mean, every step of the way, I got potential customer feedback, literally every step of the way. And so we released our software on April 12th, 2021. So 4 months ago. Our first sale was booked 2 days later.
Wow. Well, I assume it was with somebody that had answered your surveys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like they were our customer beforehand because they helped us build it by their feedback.
Right.
But so as of today, we have 29 CPA firms using our product. Oh, wow. And in the first 4 months, we have grossed, I think it's about $22,000 in sales.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm. And so, for a startup, like literally we released our product 4 months ago. My understanding is that that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything to compare it to because this is the first software company I've ever built.
And is that, you're still at the MVP or have you moved past? Okay.
No, so like when we released legit MVP. So it could do one thing. So the theory behind AuditMinder is no matter where the 401k assets are held, it could be Voya, Empower, Tiacraft, Fidelity, no matter where they are, the reports that you download out of AuditMinder all look the same. Okay, so we're standardizing record keeper reports. When we released in April, we could do one record keeper, Empower. That's all we could standardize was Empower.
Right.
Legit MVP. And then we were going to start building out the auditminder.com where you log in with your username and password and do everything there. Because when we released, people had to send me their Empower information. I run it through the program and send them back the results. So we really wanted to get it online.
Right.
Well, overwhelmingly, the response from our customers, and there were like 5 or 6 at the time, was we don't care about auditminder.com. We want more record keepers. And so we pivoted and scrapped the user interface development and brought on Fidelity. And then we brought on Voya. And then we brought on a Census. We're just bringing on a bunch of record keepers because that's what people want. And so we released as MVP as you can get. It's embarrassing almost.
Right. What I
really subscribe to the lean startup There's actually a book called Lean Startup.
Right.
And I read that book, and it's basically feedback.
Yep.
And if you release something that's not embarrassing, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. I love the feedback that you're getting. I think it's critically important to listen to your customers. Because if you don't listen to them at the beginning, you'll listen to them with their spend, right? So you wouldn't have made $22,000 in sales in 4 months if you had you might have because you knew what you were doing, but getting that next step, you were going down the wrong path. But getting that feedback from customers allowed you to serve them the way that they need served, and it's going to serve you much better in the long run.
And in a budget that I could afford.
Right. Yeah. So you still have the full vision in mind, but your path there is just different.
Yeah. Yep. And so today, I still develop that audit or the audit practice.
Right.
So I have 2 companies because the audit practice ended up being successful. Oh man.
So with having 2 companies, that at one point I had 2 companies as well, and I know it's challenging. So what are some of the challenges you have? Because I think most entrepreneurs aren't going to stop at one. If they're truly an entrepreneur at heart, that they're going to have more than one business generally. So what are some of the challenges you ran into with having 2 businesses?
I feel like I probably have a different answer than a lot of people because I have 3 challenges, maybe 4. So I developed the CPA practice, and then I started on AuditMinder. I have 3 young kids. So when I started the CPA practice, I think they were 7, 2, and 11 months.
Oh, wow.
So 3 little kids.
You like a challenge.
So then a year after I started the companies, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. So April 1st, 2020, I got the diagnosis. And that was right when COVID was starting.
Yeah.
So I have these 2 companies that were a year old. And then school went remote. So I had my 2nd grader home with me. We had to pull the kids out of daycare because COVID and a cancer patient don't mix.
Right. And
so I had 3 little kids at home, 2 companies, and I had to start chemo. Wow. And I mean, it was a struggle, right? Yeah. Like, I'm just going to say it's not.
No way around it, yeah.
There's no way around it. I mean, thank God for community. Like, my mom stepped in and she legit raised my children Monday through Friday. She took them to her house 30 minutes away and raised my kids. So I could be sick or I could work. Like, it was right. Those 2, sick or work. We had them on the weekends when my husband was home. And that's why the health insurance was so important for us.
Yeah.
It's because I unexpectedly got cancer. And so, I mean, for me, the hard part is time and not getting burnt out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the not getting burnt out for me is so much more important than a typical entrepreneur, because if I get burnt out, at least in my mind, it's an opening for the cancer to come back.
Right.
Like, and I'm not done. Like, I have chemo legitimately tomorrow. Tomorrow's my last chemo.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. I've been doing chemo for 17 months now, and tomorrow is my last, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah.
And more scared at the same time because my safety blanket of chemicals is going away. But so that's my biggest challenge is time management and not getting burnt out. So I end my day at 5. Like, I might talk to my co-founder in the evenings or text him or whatnot, but like, I'm not sitting at my computer after 5 o'clock. I have my kids and I have my health to take care of. And so I really learned to delegate. And I don't even like the word delegate because I'm not delegating. I'm giving ownership away of certain aspects of my business.
I like that.
My CPA practice, I hired an employee to do the testing work. So I do the planning, I supervise her, help her know what to do next, and then I do the review and wrap up and issue financials, right? So I kind of do the ends of the audits. In AuditMinder, I am doing all of the demos, and I'm doing vision and helping the developer figure out like what works and what we need. But I've hired 2 people to help me with sales, both of them part-time. So one of them is doing all the cold outreach and kind of doing my email drip campaign to get them to a demo. I do the demo. I follow up with them a week later. But then I have another person that's following up with them if they either don't book a sale in that first week or they only have 1 or 2 sales. I have somebody else that takes over there.
That's great. So I assume something I'm not good at, that prioritizing your health. I assume that's something you're going to keep even after you're done with chemo tomorrow and you get the all clear later on and all that. I don't know the process for that.
Yeah, no, this is a rest of the life thing for me. Like breast cancer can always come back. There's always a recurrence risk. For me, the highest risk is in the first 3 to 5 years after you stop treatment.
Okay.
So really for me, tomorrow my clock starts ticking.
Right.
And I have an 11% recurrence risk. And that doesn't seem very high to an auditor, but when you had a 0.04% chance of getting cancer in the first place, it seems really freaking high.
Yeah.
So health is number one. So I make sure I at least walk 30 minutes a day. I really can't do much more than walking because I am still on chemo, but
Right.
30 minutes a day. I try to be a vegetarian now. I'm not always successful, but everything in moderation.
Right.
I do that. I make sure I get sleep. So I put my kids down at 8:30, and I literally go to bed at 8:30 then. Right after they go to bed, I go to bed too.
Yeah.
Sleep is super important. So yeah, eat healthy, get my exercise in, get enough sleep, and I track my water. I make sure I get 8 glasses of water in a day. Like I am so stringent on my health, and it is my priority because without me, there is no company.
Right. And so stress, I think, has a big impact on cancer, from what I understand. So what do you do to help make sure that you keep your stress at a manageable level?
Those things I just mentioned,
Yeah.
I mean, all of that helps you to reduce your stress and making sure I'm done at 5. And like, I want to say I'm okay with failure. If something doesn't work out or if I make the wrong decision, that's okay with me. Like, it's not the end of the world. Nobody's dying except for potentially me, right? But like, it's not that big of a deal. If I can't get something back to a customer in the promised time frame, I'm going to email them saying, hey, I can't get back to you. So for example, Tuesday, I did really, really great in the morning up until about 12:30. And then I crashed. Like I still have chemo days where I get sick and tired and I crashed. And I went to bed at 1:00 in the afternoon to take a nap. And I slept through 2 Zoom calls. I put my my alarm on my phone to wake up in time, and it went off, and I just shut it off because I like could barely roll over, and I just completely blew them off. But that's what I had to do at that time.
Yeah.
And so if I would have, and like yes, there's a little bit of stress there, but the physical stress and the emotional stress of having to do those Zoom calls when I'm not feeling my best would have been more. So I just emailed them later that day and I'm like, I am so incredibly sorry. I'm a cancer patient. I ended up getting sick in the afternoon unexpectedly from the chemo that I had 3 weeks ago, and they forgive me. So while people say, oh my gosh, you're superhuman, like I'm not. I just totally slept through 2 Zoom calls. But that's what I have to do.
I will say it's amazing because we met at the AICPA conference and your energy is just off the charts. And I mean, would have never guessed that you were going to chemotherapy because I've been around a few people that have gone through that, and the energy level that takes from you is just incredible. So the energy that you have despite that is
yeah. But there's 2 types of chemo. I just want to put that out there. There's the systemic chemo where it kills every single fast growing cell in your body. And that's where you lose your hair. And I did lose my hair. And those were the days where my husband had to carry me to the bathroom and he had to change my clothes and I could barely lift my head off the pillow. My energy level was not like it is today. Right now I'm on a chemo drug that's targeted and it tries to kill just the cancer cells that remain. And it's not as bad. Like my hair is growing back, you can see. And I have days of energy. I would say 70% of the time I feel good and I have that energy. But at Engage, what you didn't see was at the end of the day, I went back to my room and I was asleep by 6 and slept until 6:00 the next day.
Yeah.
So I do have a lot of energy, but it's in a short amount of time.
Right.
And then I crash. So I'm excited to see what normal feels like again.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited for it. I didn't know that tomorrow was your last day. That's amazing.
Yeah. But yes, I do have a lot of energy and I'm kind of nervous about if it's going to explode once I actually get it up there.
Nobody will be able to take it.
Yeah. But as an entrepreneur, you need energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of work to do. I do everything.
Yeah. So what is one of your biggest takeaways from starting this business? Just the two businesses, really. They're very different. They're related, obviously, but what are some takeaways you have from?
I mean, starting the CPA practice was easy because I had been watching people do it for 10 years. I was never a partner. I was a senior manager when I went out on my own, but I had enough knowledge to where I felt comfortable signing an opinion. Like, yes, I had to learn how to get insurance and the technology and stuff. The software company was exponentially harder because I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
But the thing that I took away from it is you have to have a vision of someone just came in. Well, you have to have a vision of what you want the company to look like. You can't let that overwhelm you, and you have to break it into small pieces. And so when I started my CPA practice, I literally, behind me now there's a cow, but there was a really big piece of white paper that you use in meetings. You scribble on it. It's a thing. I stuck it on the wall with tape, and then I took sticky notes. And I put everything down that I felt like I needed to do to get it out of my head. So insurance, website, logo, company formation documents. And I put them on sticky notes and I threw them on that wall. And I would just focus on them one at a time. And when I was done, I'd take it off. Because otherwise, it was too overwhelming for me of everything that had to get done. And it became really scary. So I got it out of my head, put it on there visually, so I could just pull it off and tackle things one at a time. And that is what I've learned is while you have to have a big vision, you don't have to solve your vision all at once.
Right.
You just have to take baby steps.
I like that idea of putting it on the wall or in paper in some form. That's something I'm not very good at is getting things out of my head and writing. And it causes some issues because I wake up in the middle of the night realizing something's due tomorrow and I need 6 hours to get it done and I have 8 hours worth of meetings.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea. Just almost putting your to-do list on paper in a way that you can easily move things around, and it kind of gives you a prioritization list.
Yep. Yeah. And eventually I did start moving them around. At first I just threw them all up there and it was just like a big art of to-dos. And then I started kind of grouping them a little bit.
Yeah.
But now what I do is I don't have the paper up there anymore. It's not like that. And I can't remember things as good as I used to with chemo. You legit have chemo brain, which is like baby brain on steroids. And so, and I've experienced both. Chemo brain's much worse. And so if I have something that I need to do, I email myself all the time. Or I get a lot of LinkedIn messages and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And I screenshot the LinkedIn message and I email it to myself. If it's in my email inbox, I will take care of it because I keep that very clean. If it's in my email inbox, it's because I haven't taken care of it yet.
Do you use that like your to-do list?
Now that is my to-do list. Yep. And if it's been in my email inbox too long, I just start getting frustrated and I'm just going to take care of it because I'm tired of looking at it.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing all the different strategies because I used to do that as well, and that didn't work for me using email as my to-do list. It caused me to not get back to clients quick enough and different things. But it sounds like you're using emails from yourself as your to-do list, which is a much different animal.
Yeah, I think you have to have a clean email inbox in order to do that, though.
Right.
If you're one of those that just keeps all your emails in there and never really sort them or delete them, it's not going to work for you. Right. I'm a big fan of Inbox Zero.
Yeah. We just switched to a software that brings your email in. It's called Triage, and send it out and assign a work task from it.
Oh yeah.
That's actually been really helpful for me because then I do keep pretty close to Inbox Zero. I generally don't have more than 10 items in my triage at a time, and they're from that day generally. So I think that's an important thing that people don't realize is when you have your own business, you don't have these mechanisms given to you like when you work for somebody.
You got to figure it out. Yeah, I use Trello a lot. I've found HubSpot is my lifesaver as far as sales for AuditMinder. It's my Bible. If you found that technology, it's listening to podcasts a lot to find out what other people use.
Right.
Reading. I read a lot of books. And the book that I read is just depending on my mood. So like when I was starting up the businesses, it was all about other like startup businesses, and inspirational, like business inspiration.
Yeah.
Now I'm reading one about someone who took a journey across the Antarctic.
Probably mostly what you're doing sometimes.
No, it's still motivational, right? It's a really good story, and it's a real story. It's a true story, so it's motivational, but it has nothing to do with business. But right now, that's just, I don't know, that's the mood that I'm in.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with business because, like, I think that kind of feels like it. Like, just
It probably does.
you're doing the impossible. I've been feeling a lot lately, a little bit of a mix of despair at where we currently are, but complete excitement where we're going to be next month. So I think as a business owner, and probably when you walk across or go across the Antarctic, like there's nothing around you. It's desolate, and you feel that way as a business owner. But you know what the goal is, and you see it pretty clearly.
Yeah, and for me, it's like cancer is the Antarctic, right?
Right.
And I mean, I literally know one other business owner that went through cancer while having a business, but I don't know anybody that went through cancer and had 2 startups. Like, I can't ask anybody any questions of how they dealt with it. I'm on my own here. And maybe I'm sure there's somebody out there. I just haven't met them yet.
I think once you're done with all this, you're going to have a motivational speaking business as well, and how you deal with stress and and challenges when you're
Maybe I'll write a book one day.
Yeah.
Man.
So, what are some of the successes that you've
had? So the successes are, I mean, really with AuditMinder, just launching the product and having sales. Like it's incredible. Like I said, like 2 months ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a business.
Right.
I'm like, yes, I have the CPA practice, but that didn't really feel like it didn't feel like a true entrepreneur to me for some reason, because it just was natural and I knew how to do it already.
It's almost like you had a promotion that you gave yourself.
It really was. It really was. I mean, like, it was a very low promotion because I took a big pay cut the first year.
Right.
But it was a freedom of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So the successes are, I mean, I'm very, very proud of having almost 30 CPA firms on AuditMinder. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And the people that I've met, I consider that a success. Like, I have contacts all over the country now. Like, we never would have met, right? No. Never.
Not a chance. We just happen to
do the same thing
in a group of couches together.
Yeah. Like, that's a big success. The CPA practice for me, a success was hiring an employee and training them that didn't have any audit experience.
Wow.
Like, and relinquishing that control, that's very hard for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, especially if you want to get into their own business.
Yeah. And so to me, that is a very big success because she's doing so good. Like, I am so impressed with the ownership she's taking, the questions that she's asking. To me, that is a success.
How do you celebrate those successes?
I tell them good job. I don't know. Like, for me, it's their success too. And right. I think she knows that. I think she's doing wonderfully because I tell her all the time and I post it on LinkedIn or things, but like, I love telling people like, good job and thank you so much. And you're a rock star. Like, putting the excitement back onto them is so fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
I don't go out and drink because I don't drink anymore. That's another thing. Cancer, right? I don't drink. Yeah. COVID, I don't want to get out there and get Delta right now. So it's not like I'm going out and celebrating a ton. So that's a really good question. What do you do to celebrate? Yeah. I don't know. I just like cheer on my people.
Yeah. That's good though. I mean, you have to have something that you do to celebrate. What it doesn't have to be going out and celebrating physically, but even if you just take a moment, I'm big on experience and taking a minute to just kind of sit back and look at where I came from when the business started to where I am now and think, yeah. Even though I've got X, Y, and Z frustrating me, like look at what X, Y, and Z was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. It's completely different. It's a difference between making your mortgage payment was a concern to making payroll is a concern, and just your problems get bigger, but they get more rewarding and satisfying when you solve them.
Agreed. Like, I'm still in that, how am I going to pay my mortgage space? Because AuditMinder is so new that I'm not really taking a salary from it. You know, I'm taking enough salary to cover my bills.
Right.
And the CPA practice, now that I've hired an employee, like employees are very expensive.
Yes.
It's not just their salary, it's their taxes, and it's the software that you have to buy for the payroll, and then it's workers' comp, and then it's their licensing. I didn't budget for all that. I didn't.
Right.
I mean, like you would think a CPA would know, but I didn't.
Until you experience owning a business, you don't really understand what all goes into it. Like you said, most people, when they think about bringing someone on, all they look at is the salary. So if you're going to pay someone $50,000 a year, you're budgeting what, $4,000 a month, not $4,000 a month plus taxes plus all the things you mentioned. It's not inexpensive to bring someone on, even if their salary is lower. So,
yeah, and for me, like when I started the CPA practice, it was a way for people to work out of their home, work more from like that 9 to 3. Like I want to drop my kids off at school, I want to pick them up from school, and I want to be with them. That's really why I started the 401k practice, so I could give this to other women or men that wanted to have more control over their life and more time. Because I've always said that an 8-hour day in the office is equivalent to a 6-hour day at home because you're so productive. Most people, right? And so I bring an employee on and I didn't live by that. Like that's what I said, right? I'm paying them full time, but I'm allowing them to work 6-hour days during kind of the off season, right? And if it's a really hectic time of year, there's a lot going on, that 8-hour days, but that's kind of like working more.
Right.
And when you bring an employee on, it doesn't necessarily feel the same because they're not quite as efficient as you because they haven't been doing it for 10 years, but it's still abiding by that.
Right.
So if I said it, I'm going to live by it. And that's something I have to remind myself of. And I have unlimited vacation.
Yeah.
Right. I think that as a working mom, there were so many times where I used all my vacation on my sick children. And then when I wanted to take vacation, I didn't have any, or I'd have to go negative, or I went on maternity leave.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because I had unlimited vacation, and then I saw a lot of people say that having that is kind of a cop-out because they found that people don't take vacation when you have unlimited because there's not an expectation. Do you do anything to make sure that, and it sounds like your employee is still relatively new, but what do you have in place to make sure that she's taking what she should, and she knows kind of what the expectations are?
I tell her, like, we'll just play it. We'll feel it as we go along. And so she started in April. She actually started the exact same day we released AuditMinder, April 12th, which is also my husband's 39th birthday.
You were busy.
It was also the day I have a single family rental property. It was also the day that our tenants moved out. It was just a very busy day.
Yeah.
So that's the day she started. Since then, she has taken 2 1-week vacations. And, I just say, run it by me. If you need to take some time off, just let me know ahead of time, put it on your calendar. And so I haven't had to tell her to do it. I have just been very encouraging. If she says, hey, we want to put my son in swimming lessons, but the only time they have available is 4:30 on Wednesdays. And I'm like, go for it. Hey, I have a doctor's appointment at 2. And I said, okay, great. Thanks for letting me know. I don't ask her when she's coming back. I don't say, make sure you get your work done. I just say, okay. And so it's really, I feel like the reaction to when she needs to take time off, I make her feel like it's a good thing. And one day, here's one. So her very first day of work, April 12th, daycare called at 11:30, and she has a 2-year-old. Daycare called her at 11:30 saying, your child has a fever.
Jeez.
And her husband, he does filming. He's a cameraman for like sporting events.
Okay.
He can't just leave a sporting event.
Right.
Right. And so she had to leave at 11:30 on her first day to go get her sick child. And then the next day, because her husband had a sporting event, and I would say employers are not as understanding when men need to take off.
Right.
She needed to stay home with him. And I said, good job being a good mom.
Yeah.
That was my response. You're a good mom.
I'm going to guess you model it as well. Like you said, set parameters for yourself so that when you do that as the owner, it allows
probably
employees to do it.
Yeah. So Tuesday, my sick afternoon, right? 1 o'clock, I went to bed. And we use Slack, my employee and I. We use Slack all the time. And she was slacking me some questions, and I wasn't answering. And when I woke up from my nap, or like woke up to snooze my alarm, I sent her a message saying, hey, I'm having a sick afternoon. Just keep your questions or I'll answer them tomorrow. And she just said, okay, feel better.
Yeah.
And that was all that was needed. She's going to honor that I need a break. And when she needs a break, I'm going to honor her. And I take off time. Like on Monday, I went and got a manicure because I needed to do filming for AuditMinder. And so I took time out of my day to get a manicure, and she knew that.
Yeah.
And so that makes it okay for her.
Right. I think a lot of employers think of it the other way around. They think, I need to be the one here the most, which you do.
Mhm.
But they think if my employees see me leave at 4 o'clock, they're going to think that they're doing all this work and I'm getting the reward for it and I'm not doing anything. So I think there's and that's a very old school mindset, I think.
Yeah.
So I think you're
I pay her very well too.
What's that?
I pay her very well. I pay her above market.
Yeah.
And so, like, yes, I'm taking this time off, but she also knows that I'm making less than her this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So making sure that you're modeling that is counterintuitive to a lot of people, but I think it's really important, especially as an employer. Like I can tell you where that truly cares about your employee. Like
Mhm.
they're not an asset to you. That's why I started to not like the term human resources because calling people resources doesn't sound that humane to me. they're
That's a really good point.
Yeah, they're partners in your business. Really, they're just at a different level than you. So making
Yeah.
sure that you're looking at them as people instead of assets is.
You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
So I have in my firm folder, which she has access to my firm folder because she helps me with some of my bookkeeping. There's a folder called Human Resources. And maybe I need to change it. And this is funny, but I really do think about these things. Maybe I need to change it to like people, I don't know, people development or, people something instead of human resources. I actually really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the idea that you have her help with your bookkeeping too, because that was something that I thought about a good bit. How much access do I want to give my employees to what we're doing?
She knows what I make. She books my payroll.
Yeah.
She knows what I make. Like I that's not something that I want to shy around. And if someone's making more money than another person, they're going to know why.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like that. Like if I was working as a senior manager and I had a friend that was a senior manager and we couldn't tell each other our salaries, it's just that it just brings about this level of competitiveness, or even if someone thinks they're making more than another person, animosity a little bit. And so if someone's not making as much as another person in the same role, they're going to know why.
Right.
Is it because you're not working hard enough, or is it because you don't have the same experience or the same productivity? Like you're going to know why.
Yeah. The job I had prior to this, it wasn't a straight accounting job. I was the only accountant in my group. And because of that, they gave me a lot more access to things because they kind of leaned on me for that. And I saw payroll and the disparity between different people. One person had been there for years and was making the least out of everybody. So I like the idea of kind of that open book payroll. So you know why, because that person was clearly being taken advantage of and had no idea. She was the hardest worker in the group, had been there the longest, most institutional knowledge, that was being taken advantage of just because it was secret.
Yep.
It wasn't
AuditMinder. I have two people that help me in sales and AuditMinder, right? And I don't shy away from what they both make. They know, and they also know, it's based on experience and the task at hand. Like one of them is literally just sending out cold emails. There's really no customer interaction, and like sending out t-shirts in the mail for me and stuff. Like that's going to be a lower rate than the person that's following up on sales and having interactions with customers and helping them understand the AuditMinder outputs, because you have to have employee benefit plan audit technology or audit experience in order to do that. So that's a higher rate.
Yeah, I think transparency is becoming much more important and popular. Millennials want it. The next generations require it. It's not a want for them. It's if you're not transparent, they're not going to work for you. So.
And I also think it helps build camaraderie in the team too, because like if you don't want another person to win, if you don't want your team winner to win, I don't want you on my team.
Yeah.
Right. And so if someone is maybe a little bit less proficient, or if they are a little bit less productivity, like I want the team to gather around them and help them get to where they need to be if they can. Like that's the type of culture that gets me excited, is helping other people. And that's what I want in my businesses.
How do you find that during the interview process, that culture and fit?
I haven't had to interview anybody.
Okay.
They've just naturally found me and we've had some connections and I've seen what they've done. I literally have yet to look at a resume because I've just known. Resumes to me don't mean a lot.
Right.
Action means so much more.
Yeah, and especially in this environment, you almost have to find people it's so hard. We've talked about this on a few of the episodes, but I don't think there's a work shortage because people don't want to work. I think they're finding they want to do something different, and they're taking the time to get into that something different.
Yeah.
So you as an employer have to be different yourself because work is, in some ways, it's turning into a commodity.
Yeah.
Employer.
And it's not like I go out there and saying, I'm different. Like, I'm just me.
Right.
Like, I'm not looking at what other people are doing. I'm not looking at necessarily what the industry is doing. I'm looking at how I would want to work. Like, what is my ideal work situation? And that's what I want to give to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I mean, being authentic is different actually now, unfortunately.
Yeah. But it's hard because, this is your ideology and you have to do what you say you're going to do, even when it's hard. And even when it's like, okay, I'm not going to get paid very much because I'm giving all my money to them, but you know what? They're worth it. And I'm playing the long game.
Right. Yeah.
It's an investment.
So I don't want to keep you all day. So I think just kind of the last thing I want to talk about is what advice would you have for somebody starting a business? First, don't get cancer, right?
Don't get cancer. Can't help that though. Sorry. If you get cancer, you know what? Just do your best, show up, do what they tell you to do, keep it attitude. For a business owner, I think confidence is really important. Like, if you don't have confidence in yourself, you're not going to be able to have a successful business, right? But how do you get confidence?
Right.
That's trial and error, being afraid to fail, not being afraid to fail, and just living with the consequences. But my true advice is kind of like what I said earlier. Like, don't feel like you have to solve everything. So I have my vision of 2 years ahead, right? Very, very blurry vision, mind you. Don't even know if it's possible, but I just think it'd be cool. But I really am only focusing on what I need to do in the next 2 weeks. What is the next step that I need to do? I'm one or two steps ahead of my team in my mind, but that's it.
Yeah.
And so it's baby steps so you don't get overwhelmed, and business becomes much more manageable when you can just pick pieces off.
Yeah.
If you try to solve everything at once, you're not going to succeed. And if you do, it's going to have burnout along with it.
Yeah, I like that advice. It's important to have that long-term vision, but if that's all you're focused on, and you think you need to do everything now to achieve that vision, it's gonna fail.
Yeah, you're gonna miss a lot of important parts like market research.
Right, exactly. And you're not gonna be nimble, right? You wouldn't have been able to pivot if you were only looking at the long-term vision.
Yeah.
You would have said, this is the best path, the quickest path for me to get there, but you would have missed the boat on picking up the pieces that the customers need now, and you would have lost customers.
Yep.
And may not have been
successful.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have built what they wanted or what they needed.
Right.
I wouldn't have been solving a true problem. I would have just been solving this would be nice if, which doesn't have as much value as a true problem.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've talked about that a lot on the podcast, that to start a business, there has to be a problem you're solving.
Yep. Even with my CPA practice, there was a problem that I thought I was solving, which I've pivoted since then because I didn't do the market research. But there was a problem I thought I was solving.
Yeah. Well, Kelly, I appreciate it. I know your time is valuable, and getting, hopefully now that chemo's over, you'll have more energy and the world's ready for it. So congratulations.
Thank you
for taking the time today. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you so much. It was great meeting you and talking to you a little bit more officially than on a couch.
Yeah. All right. So that's another episode of the Businesses Start Here podcast. We want to thank Kelly for joining us, sharing her incredible story of everything that she's been through and the success that she's had and the success we know she's going to have. So be sure to like everything that we do on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias. Subscribe to the podcast and share your feedback with us. We really want to hear what you want to hear in these episodes. So getting the customer research that Kelly had spent so much time on. We want that for this podcast as well. So
we'll send out a Google form.
What's that?
We'll send out a Google form.
Yeah, we'll send out a Google form. But until next time, thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you again. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Businesses Start Here podcast. We hope you were inspired and encouraged by today's podcast. We would love to hear your feedback. Please send us an email at podcast@viliati.com. That's podcast@VILLIOTTI.com. And be sure to share, like, and comment all of our content.